What's going on, everybody? You have Tone here, back with some more Draft League content, this time bringing you guys my draft analysis for season number 3 of the PBAL. This is a new Wi-Fi league that I have decided to take part of. This will be my last draft league of Gen 7. I promise this definitely will be my last one, as technically speaking, my last one was going to be CPC, and then I was going to take a break until Gen 8 started, but I don't know, I just decided to have something up and just try to upload something, try to get back into the weekly uploading pace that I'm accustomed to do in the past. So yeah, so just to quickly recap, because I didn't upload my side, I technically tried to upload CPC the movie part 2, and there were some issues where some of the pictures were just looked like it froze or whatnot. But basically, for a condensed version of what I showed in that video, I basically showed the second half of CPC plus any playoff matches I went through, and I ended up just winning out the rest of the season. I won week 6 through 10, finished the regular season undefeated 10-0, plus 30 differential, something like that. Won my quarterfinals game, won my semifinals game, and then I was planning on uploading my finals game, but that got I had the same issues in terms of that being recorded, in terms of the images being all choppy and whatnot. Basically, long story short, I was undefeated heading into the finals, the third time I've ever been into the finals in Draft League format, and I was facing off against my good friend Styx, who was the back-to-back CPC champion, and I ended up losing that game 2-0. So yeah, so I'm still looking for my first championship. Came close, but again, I lost that game 2-0. If you guys want to see that that particular battle, I will leave a link to that particular video in the description, just because. But that's neither here nor there. This is not the CPC. CPC is behind us now, and we're moving on now to the PBAL. So this is my last Gen 7 league, as I mentioned before, and basically the format has not changed at all from what I've been accustomed to doing the past couple of draft leagues I've done, with the exception of this is being a tiered format as opposed to the point system that I've been using in terms of the CPC. But basically, same rules apply. Draft 11 Pokemon. You have one tier 1, a tier 2, 2 tier 3s, a tier 4, a tier 5, your Mega, and 400 points to draft 4 free Pokemon. So in terms of my team heading into this, my last Gen 7 Wi-Fi league, I figured I'd have a little bit of fun with this one, particularly as I brought up Styx. Basically what I basically made a joke with Styx that I didn't think I would actually do, but I would only do it if I got to my round 1 pick. And with my round 1 pick, I had the 3rd pick in the draft, and lo and behold, I didn't really think I would get this mon, considering it was a round. Considering I had 3rd pick, I assumed it would go number 1 or number 2 or something along those lines, but the first 2 people in front of me had other plans. So with the 3rd pick, my round 1 selection for PBAL season number 3, I grabbed the Styx staple mon, which is never a Styx team without it. That's Tapu Koko. It's plain and simple. If it doesn't have Tapu Koko, it's not a Styx team. Styx, if you've followed him throughout his 3 seasons in the CPC, season 6 through season 8, he has used Tapu Koko. Basically, I've never seen anyone use Tapu Koko. It's basically it's one of those mons that it's hard to describe. It's a very good round 1 staple mon, and it's not really the mon that's going to win games, but it just does so many things from an offensive point, because it's such a great offensive pivot It can do physical, it can do special. Mostly people claim to the special side of Tapu Koko, and it just grabs you so much momentum. Such a fast, versatile electric type. People, for some reason, I don't know why people say that Zero Aura is better than Tapu Koko. I mean, just because it's faster doesn't mean that means Zero Aura is better. But I digress. I really love Tapu Koko's versatility, being able to, like I said, run physical, run special, be one of the best offensive pivots in Draft League format. Very fast electric type Pokemon, very nice support with electric terrain to boost electric attacks, prevent opposing mons from falling asleep and all that stuff. But this is just a very solid round 1 selection, number 3 overall, and I'm really excited to use Tapu Koko. I think I've only used Tapu Koko like twice in the past, and both of them was only for like one Wi-Fi game. Like I remember there was like a sub league I did like a year ago, and then I used it briefly in APA Academy. And look, to be perfectly honest, I didn't really use Koko that much in both of those games, so I'm looking to have a lot more of a extended run with Tapu Koko this time around, especially considering that Gen 7 is coming to a close. So I decided to see how far I could actually take the joke, and the joke, basically with certain people in the draft league community is, as I mentioned before, Styx loves Tapu Koko. It's basically his ace. It's the one mon that basically defines. I wouldn't say defines him, but when you look up Tapu Koko, if you look up Tapu Koko in like draft league history, Styx would be like the first thing that pops up right next to Tapu Koko, because the two is like peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other. So what I did was I didn't really, it wasn't more of a challenge, it was more of a fact that let me see if I can actually end up drafting the mons that Styx felt the most comfortable using when drafting Tapu Koko. Since I've played Styx many times, not just in Draft League but in mocks, I pretty much know how he operates, and his modus operandi is have to stack, get momentum, out to the breakers, the other fast mons, all that stuff. So to go along that route, I decided to sort of like just take the mons, try to draft mons that I know Styx would likes using and fits his playstyle. So to accommodate Tapu Koko, not really build around Koko, but the team I ended up drafting pretty much is a summation of how Styx would draft his team, more or less. And my second round pick is kind of also a Styx mon, a little bit less so, but it's more of a me mon, because it's the one Pokemon that's I've pretty much drafted the most often in my entire draft league career. And with my round 2 pick, for all the people that knows me around draft league format, this is basically the one Pokemon that would probably define me as opposed to Styx, and that Pokemon would be none other than good old Caltrops. Has to be Ferrothorn. So I know I've drafted teams without Ferrothorn, but unfortunately I had Ferrothorn in CPC too, but that's a different story. But anyway, Ferrothorn is just too nice to have on a team like this that provides me with Stealth Rock and provides me with a Spiker, a good typing with Grass and Steel coverage, a good utility mon all together without just Spikes and Stealth Rock. Also gets access to Leech Seed, Protect, Knock Off, Thunder Wave. The utility options just goes on and on for this thing. Ferrothorn is such a valuable asset to teams that want a Spiker, a mon with good resistances. I've talked up this mon quite a bit in all the times I've had it in the past, and Ferrothorn has yet to let me down in the times I have drafted it, which I think this makes the 9th time I've probably drafted Ferrothorn in League format. A little bit too much? Yes, I know, but Ferrothorn is just so nice to have. It's so hard for me to pass up Ferrothorn when it comes back to me in round number 2, and Lo and behold, I'm actually very glad to have it. While it doesn't resist ground like a normal grass type does, the steel typing does make up for it in terms of being a resistance to normal types and all that stuff. So it still has its perks here and there, and mostly I'll be using Ferrothorn for the grass typing anyway. So that's pretty much it for Ferrothorn. I don't want to drag on too much about stuff that you guys already know at this point. But back to the modus operandi of drafting the Sticks team, quote unquote. So round number 3 is a pick that this mod would normally go around this time, like late round 2, early round 3, mainly round 3. Sticks also uses Pokemon very well. It's sort of like another offensive pivot like Coco is. And I've used this Pokemon once in the past in another league. I never got to finish out that league, and I'm really excited to use this Mon again, and that Mon is going to be my round 3 pick, Greninja. So, Greninja, I've only used, like I said, the one time in the UPBA. I had Greninja on that team, and it has like Garchomp, Mega Kangaskhan, all that stuff. It was a really, really fun Mon to try out, having something fast in general, because my teams are usually not dedicated in the objective of being a fast team. It's just more of a bulky team that can take hits. Greninja gives me another option, giving me a Spiker, a Toxic Spikes user, Momentum, and just another overall fast Mon in general, just having that fast water type in general. Not being able to use, having access to Protein has never hindered Greninja in the past. It's still a very solid Mon in general, and very fast momentum grabber, and it's just very nice to have in general. Also having that priority with Water Shuriken if I need to pick off weakened Mons and all that stuff. So again, I don't want to go too much into detail about what these Mons do, because it's pretty much like, what's the point of trying to regurgitate stuff that's already been said in the past. So that's pretty much my round 3 pick in Greninja. Another Sticks Mons, he used this very well when he had it this in season number 8, to very, very good success for him. So I decided to give it another spin for myself, just to like test the waters and whatnot. So moving on now to round number 4, and this next Pokemon is how do I describe it, to be honest? This is also one of his top. So just to keep the joke, I'm still trying to keep the joke going, trying to keep the momentum going, keep the Sticks team alive and all that stuff. And my round 4 pick actually ended up being one of Sticks' all-time favorite Mons, I think like number 3 on his list or something along those lines. And that Pokemon ended up being Necrozma, or Necrozma, whatever. I liked using Necrozma when I had it, I believe, back in the PPL or something along those lines. But basically, Necrozma is just so good, so versatile. I still can't believe this thing was tier 1, but despite what the tiering it was in, Necrozma is just a very solid Pokemon in general, with the ability to run another Stealth Rock user from take rocks off my Ferrothorn. It gives me an option with Swords Dance. It's a defensive pivot. It gets solid recovery with Moonlight or Morning Sun. It can Rock Polish. It can do all sorts of things. And I know some people have done like Weakness Policy and all that stuff, but it's not just limited to Weakness Policy. Just being a nice defensive pivot in general is just another solid option to have. And having that real having a good fighting resist is also nice on this team, because I don't really have a fighting resist. Like, I have a fighting check, but Coco is not really going to be the type of Pokemon that's going to hard switch into strong attackers in general. Like, it shouldn't be. And Necrozma does fulfill that role of being a defensive pivot, like I mentioned, just having the ability to run Stealth Rock, Swords Dance, even going special with Heat Wave and all that stuff. And Photon Geyser is just a very, very good move with the ability to go either physical or special depending on how I EV the Necrozma. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Necrozma. Just a very, very solid Mon in the format if used correctly. And then moving on, to my round 5 pick, I decided that the one thing I needed was to have some sort of ground type, and also just having a grounded poison in general. So with my round 5 pick, I ended up grabbing one of the Nidos in this in the draft. So round 5, picked up Nidoqueen, heading into round number 5. So Nidoqueen provides me with another T-Spike abuser, a T-Spike user, excuse me, another Stealth Rock user, another Fighting Resist, a grounded poison, and a very solid mon in general with the ability to go both offensive and defensive. It is no slouch. With the combination of sheer force and life orb, it is a major powerhouse threat in any situation, and it can still has the bulk to check fighting types, electric type check in general, because I didn't really have much of an electric check at this point. So having that solid ground type is very nice for my team in general, and just adding to the bulk that I've acquired so far with the Ferrothorn and the Crossma and now the Nidoqueens. Just patching up those weaknesses very, very nicely on this team. But mainly, this is just going to be another versatile mon I can use with the ability to go either physical or special. Also, like I mentioned, having the option to run Toxic Spike, Stealth Rock, anything I want with my Nidoqueen, it can provide that role, and it hasn't let me down in the past, and I'm pretty sure that it won't do so this time around. So, heading into my round 6 pick, and this is the pick that this is one of those picks that pretty much seals the deal when it comes to being a Styx team, because no matter what, when you have the Tapu Koko and you have a team like this that I'm actually trying to make work into how he likes to draft, there is one Pokemon in general that you absolutely must have, or else it does not qualify as a Styx team. And that Pokemon is none other than the god that is Swampert. If you don't have Swampert with Tapu Koko, it doesn't count. And basically, what Swampert provides is a lot of versatility. I know this because Swampert is basically like the Seismitoad that does not have Water Absorb. I kind of wish it had Knockoff, so it would be even more amazing, but that's not the point. Swampert is like the crux of a bona fide Styx team, because Swampert just does so many things for a team. It can do physically defensive, specially defensive. It is a stealth rocker, and I will say this right now, I do have to agree, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but because I've used the set myself, Protect Rindoberry Swampert is the best Swampert set, hands down. You protect to scout for the grass move. If they don't have it, you stay in. If they have the grass move, you take the hit and you kill them back. That's basically how this works. This is probably one of the most reliable stealth rockers if used correctly. Considering the fact that I've faced Styx so many times with Swampert and Tapu Koko and some other ground type, it kind of just makes sense. And just having that stealth for another ground type, it's basically a ground type. Its only weakness is grass, and then I have another Pokemon, another ground type that's not weak to grass in the Nidoqueen, so it kind of forces my opponent to pick either run the grass coverage for the Swampert or the ice coverage for the Nidoqueen, and knowing full well that they can't deal with both at the same time. So that's pretty much the idea behind the double ground core. And technically speaking, I do this sort of thing myself, especially when it comes to having a ground type that's 4 times weak to one typing. You like to have another ground type that's not weak to that typing, that actually forces that sort of hidden power 50-50 on your opponent's end of the field. But anyway, that is the Swampert, a very solid mon in general. in draft format. So moving on now to my round 7 pick, and quite frankly, the team didn't really have a ground resist. I had some mons that could take ground type attacks, but nothing that outright resisted ground. And when it came to me in particular, I'm not really accustomed to drafting ground resist in general, or my grass type is Ferrothorn. So I made sure to get a Pokemon that resisted ground, and it's just a overall nuisance in general. It just tanks hits for days. And that mon just happens to be another Styx favorite, Buzzwall. Personally, I love using Buzzwall myself. After using it in leagues prior, this thing eats hits for days. It is ridiculous on how much bulk that Buzzwall provides for a team. It just comes in, eats up physical hits. It takes on stuff like Zygarde, gives me a ground resist. It takes on strong physical attackers like Mamoswine, like Scolipede. Even after an SD boost, the attacks just bounce off of Buzzwall, and it just chews up those hits. Like it just bounced off it like it never even took damage in the first place. This thing is such a physical tank, and not just a physical tank, it's also a very solid revenge killer with Choice Scarf as well, as I've used Scarf Buzzwall in the past, and that thing put in work. I think there was one point I think I got like 5 kills with Buzzwall just spamming Leech Life or Drain Punch at some point. But yeah, this is just a very, very good way to solidify my defensive core, And not only that, having a defensive core with offensive capabilities like Crossma, like Nidoqueen, the mons that can function both offensively and defensively and still be no slouch on the offensive end, even without investment. That's what Buzzwall provides my team. But the most important thing is the fact that I also have a ground resist, which I did not really have prior to this selection. So yeah, really excited to have Buzzwall on the squad, just coming in, eating up those hits, retaliating with strong physical attacks, and just going to work trying to get those beast boosts. So moving on to my round 8 pick, and this is the part where I actually deviate from the Styx draft, because there was one extra Pokemon I wanted to get, and that Pokemon was actually Cofagrigus, but Cofagrigus was actually taken the pick right before I made Buzzwall, so that idea kind of went down the drain, and I just had to like try to make my own selection while still trying to make it like a Styx team. But pretty much I already have like most of the Styx core down as it is with these 7 mons. So what I decided to do was try to fix up my speed tiers, as there were some Pokemon that I had. The Pokemon I had, I was lacking in the speed tier department, so there was like stuff from Buzzwall, and then I had nothing slower than Greninja. I had like a huge speed gap, so I wanted to start to fill that speed tier if I could. So round 8, while it may be an unorthodox pick here, I ended up picking up Moltres as my tier 4 pick, mainly because of the fact that it gives my team a speed tier that I didn't have, base 90 speed. It gives me a flying type, it gives me a fire type, and like a Styx draft, it's not an ice resist. Basically. So the idea with Moltres was more or less trying to have some way of helping out Tapu Koko, as Tapu Koko would more or less struggle against grass types, like bulky grass type Pokemon. If it like tanks a Brave Bird pretty well, Moltres can come in and scare out those grass types with the fire or flying type coverage. Also gives me momentum with U-turn. It's a very it can also run bulky and be like a check for like another fighting type check, a fire check in general for mons like Volcarona, which can be a bit problematic for my team. But the main thing behind Moltres was just trying to fix up my speed tiers. I never really got the chance to use Moltres. So it's a little bit exciting to try this thing out. It may look a little bit weird on this particular team, considering that my hazard removal at this point, it's literally just Tapu Koko and itself in Defog Moltres. But I feel like I can make it work in some way, shape, or form. And considering it's the last Gen 7 draft league I'm going to be doing, I might as well try out at least a couple of new mons under my belt. So, moving on to my round 9 picks. So this was the part where I decided to try to get my Mega, because I had already used up all my free points since the Crossma was a tier 1, Swampert was tier 3, Buzzwall tier 2, so I already used up 400 free points. So I had to pick up a tier 2 or a lower Mega to make up the free points to grab another Pokemon. And the Megas I had in mind to go with this team was 2 in particular. The main one was Mega Pidgeot, which was already taken, and then the backup to Mega Pidgeot was Mega Aerodactyl, which was also taken. And both of them were tier 2, so basically if I had gotten Mega Pidgeot or Mega Aerodactyl, I wouldn't have picked up Moltres, obviously. So to make up for that, there wasn't really anything in tier 2, in terms of tier 2 Megas that I wanted. I had considered going like a Mega Heracross route if I didn't get Buzzwall, but Mega Heracross was a tier 1 Mega, because in this league you can Mega whenever you want. There's no Mega turn 1 rule like some other leagues run, so it like Mega Sharpedo is tier 1 in this league. Not like I can get it anyway, but anyway. So I decided to go down a little bit towards tier 3, and basically the only lower tier Mega that I actually felt comfortable with trying out that fulfilled a need in terms of speed tiers was me grabbing Mega Glalie as my tier 3 Mega. So I get 60 extra points for my free total count, so I can get at least one more. I can get a tier 4 mon with my final free pick. Basically, Mega Glalie does fulfill a speed tier which I lacked in base 100, and quite frankly, Mega Glalie is one of those underrated Megas that don't really get to shine out that often because of the fact it's overshadowed by other physical Megas in the tier. Just being a pure Ice type doesn't really help it defensively, but offensively it's very incredible, especially with the fact that you combine its base 120 attack with Refrigerate. So Refrigerate boosted returns, double edges, it gets Freeze Drive for bulky water types that can wall it, it gets Earthquake for like steel types and all that stuff that resist the ice type moves that it goes for, and it's another offensive spiker. So now I have a total of 4 mons on my team with access to spikes or toxic spikes with Greninja, Nidoqueen, and the Ferrothorn, the other 3. So yeah, this kind of doesn't look like a Sticks team anymore because Glalie is an ice type and ice resists itself, but Mega Glalie's not an ice resist. It's not meant to be taking hits whatsoever. I'm basically going to be using Mega Glalie as a means of pivoting in with my momentum grabbers with Coco, or my Moltres, or my Greninja for that matter, and just getting Greninja and my Glalie in freely, and just start clicking buttons if I have the opportunity to do so. And having another priority abuser with Ice Shard is also nice to have for those, to pick off weakened Pokemon at this point. So at this point, round 10 rolled around, and I wanted to complete the core and get my round 10. So basically, I had planned on getting a Alolan Raichu this round with the free points I got from Mega Glalie, but for some weird reason, Alolan Raichu got taken, and I was thinking, okay, that doesn't actually make any sense to draft Alolan Raichu without Tapu Koko, because more often than not, Raichu without Alolan Raichu without Electric Terrain is a pretty much useless mon. Because like Alolan Raichu with Tapu Koko makes the most sense. So it really didn't like register in my head as to why anyone would take Alolan Raichu without taking Tapu Koko. So I had to mix up my strategy a bit in terms of my last free mon. So what's going to end up happening is, while it's going to be a weird round 10 selection, but I'll explain to you at the end. So my round 10 pick with my tier 4, I actually ended up grabbing Talonflame, and it doesn't make any sense, like I said, that I have a Talonflame and I have a Moltres. Long story short, I do end up trading one of these two at the end of the draft. So, but basically, Talonflame gives me another fast Pokemon. I never used Talonflame in the past. Even in Gen 6, I've always had to prep against it. I never got the chance to use and abuse Gale Wings when it was still good. But still, nonetheless, another fast mod at my disposal, base 126 speed. Have the ability to run Choice Man, Swords Dance with Z-Fly and all that stuff, Flame Charge, Flare Blitz, the whole 9 yards. Just a very nice another fast mod in general. And if I keep Talonflame's HP full, Gale Wings gives me essentially 2 potential options with Z Brave Bird plus Gale Wings Brave Bird on top of that. I also forgot to mention at the beginning of the draft that this is it's open Z, so there's no specific Z mon, so everything on my team does have access to Z crystals. And then lastly, for my tier 5 pick, I went with another underrated Pokemon that's tier 5 that I never got to try out. And I figured, you know what, like I said, last Gen 7 League, so decided to go with Cleon. So basically, Cleon is a bunch of things in one. Most importantly, the ability of Protein, having all of its attacks give you stab. It gives me another Stealth Rocker, a knockoff Abuser, a potential Trick Room Setter on its own, and just a multitude of coverage options at its disposal, with not just knockoff but Drain Punch, Trick Room, as I mentioned. They run like Fire Blast and all that stuff. So yeah, really cool, really versatile mon. A bit on the slow side, but my team is kind of like geared towards being bulky and slow anyway in that retrospect. So really excited to try out Cleon, despite the fact that it may not come as often as I would like it to, considering what I already have drafted. So yeah. I will try to like bring it a couple of times if I can during the regular season. Hopefully more than twice if the opportunity does present itself, but that's neither here nor there. So that is my tier 5 pick in Cleon. And then after the draft ended, I actually ended up making a trade in which I acquired the Alolan Raichu I mentioned earlier in exchange for trading Moltres. So, like I said before, Alolan Raichu, it just makes the most sense to have Alolan Raichu paired up with Tapu Koko to abuse its ability Surge Surfer, which doubles its speed under electric terrain. So it gives me another fast option. It gives me a late game sweeper with a combination of Thunderbolt, Psychic, other coverage options like Focus Blast, Grass Knot, and the fact that it's open Z, so I can abuse Alolan Raichunium Z if the opportunity does present itself. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for my draft analysis. It is a bit on the long side. I think it's like over half an hour that I've been rambling on for a bit here, but yeah, that is my team. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the squad that I drafted, or basically what I made myself draft with a bit of influence. But yeah, really excited to try out this squad. Week 1 will be going up on the 30th. Week 1 will be going up on the 30th, so the Sunday following the release of my draft analysis. So yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and that is going to be it from me. Until the next time, guys, this is Tone, signing up for now. Peace out.